Hey, so we're just getting started here. I'm doing a live stream regarding the Daily Wire releasing a new documentary called Identity Crisis. And this documentary is extremely important for anyone that is dealing with gender identity issues because it specifically addresses the harm that is caused by transition and the lack of help when, that people have when they detransition. I know what it's like to pursue transition, be it because I got hormones on a first visit to a clinic with no evaluation and was provided from a physician's assistant. I know what the impact of hormones is on the body, having taken estradiol and spironolactone for a year and a half before I poured them down the sink. Now, I struggled with gender dysphoria for over 40 years before seeking to transition, and only to realize that what I was doing was crazy and I would not solve the underlying struggles I had in my life and would not change who I was. Thankfully, the Daily Wire's invested in and created this documentary, Identity Crisis, which explains some of the history of the development of treating people who are struggling with gender dysphoria and and they also talk about the unreliability of the data used by professionals that are providing gender affirming services. Identity Crisis draws attention to the lack of services for people who are detransitioning and the severe damage caused by the process of transitioning for quite a few people. The documentary does call into question the reliability of the data used in determining treatment and how society and the legal world are addressing gender issues. Now, the Daily Wire utilizes credible sources who are experiencing gender issues with their family and those who have transitioned and then detransitioned, and medical experts. And what I really appreciate is they steered away from using the sources that are militant and anti-trans activists that are over the top. Instead, they're using people who are passionate about those who have struggled with gender dysphoria and actually helping those people to overcome their issues. Experts point out that the amount of people identifying as having gender issues has skyrocketed over the past several years after becoming trendy, and that the amount of young people who identified with trans issues often overcome those issues by the time they are 20 years of age. Now, for me personally, I did not overcome my gender dysphoria until I was 50 and started transitioning, only to stop after a year and a half when I realized I did not need to change who and what I am for my own self-acceptance. This show focuses primarily on young people and adolescents discussing the dangers of intervening with puberty blockers and hormones as children do not fully develop. Some children who've had interference prior to puberty are unable to have or experience sexual gratification as they get older, as the puberty blockers stunt the growth. Places like California have split up families and even introduced legislation to charge parents with child abuse if you don't support your child undergoing transition if they expressed interest in doing so. And that's just an awful situation. There are cases where their father has not seen his son who's being transitioned by the mother in over 5 years. He's interviewed in the documentary Identity Crisis, which is playing on X right now and is available for the first 72 hours. And they just released this this afternoon. So I have watched it completely through. Now, there are studies that show that the majority of children who are struggling with gender dysphoria also have comorbidities and that they should be addressed prior to gender intervention. I totally believe that because all my life I was dealing with the gender dysphoria, and I also had these comorbidities about how I saw myself and how I felt about myself. And it wasn't until I stopped going through transition, decided not to complete that transition, and then 6 months later, I started working on all the underlying issues. Had I been working on those issues as a child or at any other point in my life, I'm sure I wouldn't have transitioned, and I'm sure that I could have overcome the gender dysphoria. I'm not saying that's for everybody. I'm saying that's for me. That's my personal experience. And it's the experience of quite a few people that I've seen out online. And in it, if you watch Identity Crisis, you will see those people in that documentary that will also support the exact same experience that I have. Now, as parents, you should know that your child, I've got some notes here, I apologize, but you should know your child, if they decided to detransition, that the likelihood that you will get support is significantly reduced or not available, as most gender affirming facilities do not support those who choose to detransition. And when I decided to detransition, there was no support for me. As a matter of fact, nobody came up and helped with that process. And the gender clinics aren't going to do it because they're gender affirming. The church communities that are LGBT friendly churches, I have yet to hear of one that would support somebody through a detransition, because that's counter to the idea of what you think about that you're born in the wrong body. And I don't believe that you're born in the wrong body. I don't think anybody's born in the wrong body. I think that we're born in our body that we have, and that we have, um, uh, we might modify that. We might use plastic surgery. We might do things to make us look and act differently. But that's the body we were born as. You're not. You don't get the wrong body. Uh, I'd strongly recommend you watch this video, and if you have children who are dealing with gender dysphoria, it will be extremely helpful. Now, I'm gonna play a clip on it here, and this is interesting on this young girl, how she reacts, and notice the uh, colors that are in her room.
Their period, or they would rather play with, this kind of toy than that kind of toy, then maybe they actually are the opposite sex, kind of in the wrong body. And then at that point, that's a 5 alarm fire.
I think I'm gonna take some medicine so I can kind of like transform into a boy, get surgery.
Yeah. Okay. You think that you want to do that when you get older?
I think I do.
So right now, young girls are.
I mean, this girl is a tomboy. I don't see her. I mean, she doesn't know that she wants to be transition. This is ridiculous that that's the case, and I see this is a dangerous part. Now, they do talk about in the movie about how the majority of people that are transitioning in youth are female, and they're going female to male. Now, the thing that is so interesting about this is that when I went through my decision to transition, when I struggled with this, the amount of people that were dealing with gender dysphoria were 0.1% of the population. And out of those people, 80% of them were male to female, not female to male. But now that has changed to that it's gone in total reverse, where it is women that are wanting to be masculine and dominating, and far less men that are doing this. And so this is a really difficult thing. The other thing is that when you have children that are having double mastectomies, this is doing severe damage to them, especially when you have children who are later determined that they don't want to transition. And so, like Chloe's in here, this show, and there's several others that have detransitioned, females that have detransitioned, and so they what they've done is because of the hormones, because of the mastectomies, they've damaged their bodies to live out comfortably in a female role. And this is really disturbing, because we're talking about some young starting out to appear to be really beautiful women, and that end up being really masculine, and they struggle with it. There's even one young lady that she uses prosthetic breast forms to feel comfortable, but I mean, just what the hormones have done to the body is just it's an awful situation. And I think if you look out on YouTube, if you look out on Instagram, if you look out on X, you will see a significant number of detransitioning female to males, and that are going back to female, but they have the deeper voice, and it's really an upsetting thing to do that. So I just would really recommend that you check out this this documentary, because it's just really important. And so I'll play some more clips here. Just a moment. Oh, okay. So here's a dad that he had his child taken away from him, and so he hasn't seen his son. I believe it's going to be for 8 years, but
I don't know, Adam. I don't know why she would do this. And then I texted her and I said, "Please stop. He's a boy, not a girl. Boys don't wear girls' clothes." And that was when he was 2. The next turning point was when my son was 3. We all went to this place called Jumpin' Jammin'. Me and him had a wonderful time. We had a blast. Came home, ordered pizza. Grandma and Grandpa were there, and we were at the time we were potty training him. He told me, "Daddy, I gotta use the restroom." So I took him to the restroom. I said, "Hey, pal, do you want me to stay with you, or do you want to do it by yourself?" He says, "No, I want to do it by myself." I said, "Great." And we were washing his hands, and he said, "Daddy, Mommy bought me a pink dress." So I stopped, finished washing his hands, and I got down on one knee, looked him square dead in the eye, and I said, "Hey, buddy, you're a boy, and boys don't wear dresses." The way I explain it to you guys is the same exact way I explain it to my son. Calm, cool, collective. 3-second conversation. Him and I went back and opened up presents, had cake and ice cream. I waited 2 days, and that's when I sent her the 46
now this guy, he went to court for his child to try and get this stopped, and the court in California put a restraining order on him against his covering his wife and his child, and that lasted, I believe it was 3 years. And then he went back into court trying to get this restraining order lifted and to get visitation with his child, and the court put a 5-year additional restraining order on him. So this guy is not getting to see his child and has no decision in his child's life. It has nothing to do with him. He is doing video documentaries to talk to his child, to let his child know that he loves his child. And he even has birthday parties for his child, even though his child's not there. And this is ripping this guy apart. He is, well, he'll say later in the video that this is just absolutely devastating to him. And he doesn't know that he can keep on doing this. And this has been going on for a long time. So by the time that the restraining orders are up, his child will be 10 years old. And at 10 years old in California, then that opens up the opportunity to actually put the boy on puberty blockers at that point, and he may still not be able to do anything about it unless the courts intervene. He has tons of supporters that are fighting for him to get time with his child, and this is just, it's a devastating thing to go through. Can you imagine being a parent and having this happen? Now, there's another guy in here that somehow in California he was able to get partial custody, partial time with his son, and I'm not sure what had happened with it, but we'll go ahead and listen to him a little bit here. And
parents are coming together, right or left, it doesn't matter. We're not going to let the government abuse this anymore. We're not going to let them take our kids. We're going to draw a line in the sand, say no more. We're protecting children no matter what.
My name is Harrison Tinsley. I'm a single dad, protector of children. There was lots of red flags in the relationship because of her mental illness problems, and I did worry that that could be something that would affect a child once my son came to exist. My son was born, I missed it, I was not told in any way, shape, or form. One of my ex's friends reached out to me on social media and showed me that he had been born about a week after. Her and I went to the doctor together for the ultrasound. We found out my son was going to be a boy. We were both unbelievably happy about that, celebrating even, shouting. And when she announced on Facebook that she was pregnant, she had posted a post, "Baby sort of due in December. I will love you whether you're a boy or a girl or neither." And that was something that unsettled me a little bit. There was some conversations on a personal level between her and I.
Now, what's interesting is that the mother had decided to raise the child gender neutral, and she withheld his child from him, and he fortunately was able to go to court and show the messages and show that this was the case. And so he got 50-50 custody with this child, and so he spent time doing boy things with him. What's interesting is the court does rule on this later, after the documentary, and he ends up getting full custody of his child, which is a good thing. You know, the thing about it is that, you know, it's you want to do what's right for your children. You want to make sure they're happy. You want to take care of them and do the right thing. But and that's difficult. And if a child shows interest in the opposite gender, things like playing with Barbie dolls or whatever, that you might think that they're going to end up being transgender, but sometimes kids just do that, and they end up playing with opposite gender toys, and they grow out of it. They live differently. And so to say that they're transgender, to keep on going on that timeline or to be going down that path is a dangerous thing. And I feel we're really blessed that I actually grew up in the 70s and 80s, because I think that if I was growing up in today's world, I probably would have been transitioned as a child. And I'm happy that I'm not transitioned. I'm so thankful that that's not the case, because even going through what I went through to make the decision to transition, I spent a lot of effort trying to work on my facial hair, work on taking care of my skin, doing all these things to look more passable. And the amount of work that it goes in is just, it's crazy. I mean, it becomes an obsession, and that's what you end up spending your life doing. And taking the hormones, I have physical effect. It's physically affected my body in ways that, you know what, I don't want it to be there. And so I know that I took hormones, and it did have impacts on my body, and that have not gone back. And so I could go through and have some corrections done to overcome that, or I can just let them be my thorn in my side right now and take it. And I'm more comfortable today with being how I am and just letting it go. But I'm in my late 50s, and so that makes a difference too. And so it's not so important, but I can't imagine what it'd be like to be 18, 19 years old, 20 years old, and have these things impacting my body, because it's just difficult to make that happen. Now, another thing is in the school systems, teachers aren't able to talk to parents, aren't able to share with parents that the children are identifying as gender neutral, as trans, or what have you, what their pronouns are being are said to be. And I think that's a huge mistake. I mean, parents need to be parents, and we need to let them work with their children. And the idea that the school feels like that, the school systems feel like that they can interfere with that is incredible. I can't imagine why they would jump from being parents need to take responsibility to the school's now responsible for the children, and parents have no responsibility. I can remember that, in the 90s and even in the early 2000s, there was a big push for parental responsibility, and that it's not teachers' responsibility to raise your children, but it's teachers' responsibility to let the parents know what your kids are doing. And now, some schools are even going so far as telling the teachers to lie to parents. And if you take this woman who she lost her job over it, and so this is just crazy.
If I ever find out about a student's gender or pronoun preference, that I was to withhold that from parents.
A former Harupa Valley High School teacher speaking out after she says she was fired for not hiding students' gender transitions from parents.
The way it started was students actually found me on social media. They found my Christian conservative views, and that upset them. I was in class. It was actually 2 days before summer break, and an administrator came and pulled me out of class, took me up to the office where the assistant superintendent was waiting for me. And he said, something's been brought to our attention via social media, and we're gonna have to place you on paid administrative leave until we investigate. I was completely blindsided. I was presented with 12 allegations. One of them was that I broadcast sermons to my classes. And even my union reps sitting next to me were like, does she roll out loudspeakers and like have the kids gather around and listen to Sunday's sermon? Then came a second meeting. This one was now in September of last year, and they had made their decision. They said, we want you to know you're lucky to still have your job. We're lucky we're letting you come back to work because what you've done is so serious. And I'm still kind of confused. You know, what have I done? I've posted my Christian conservative views on my social media pages. They gave me several directives, but there were 3 of them that I just was very convicted by. So the first one was that I had to call students by their preferred gender pronoun. Also, you need to withhold that from parents if you were to ever find out about, you know, a child's new name preference or gender preference. And so I looked the assistant superintendent in the eye.
Now, she actually ended up losing her job because she is a phys ed teacher, and she refused to make to have girls allow a transgender student be in the same locker room. So the school actually ended up dismissing her because they quote unquote could not make a religious accommodation. I don't think it has anything to do with a religious accommodation about having kids in the locker room having males who identify as females in the locker room. And my position has been and has always been is that if you're a transgender person, that you should use a gender neutral facility. Now, by the way, I do have chat open, so if you want to engage, if you want to throw out your thoughts or you want to ask a good question, feel free to do that, and I'll try and answer them, my position or comment on the video as we go. So at any rate, so she loses her position, her career over this. And this has been happening with several people. There's a San Jose State volleyball team. The assistant coach spoke out about a transgender player that they had on their team, and coach spoke up for the teammates, and the school, the college, fired the assistant coach. What is interesting is that the team stayed together and played through the season. They were had several teams forfeit against them, so many so that managed to put them into the playoffs. They did lose their game against, I believe it was Colorado State, in the first round of the playoffs. And then there were 7 or 8 people that were on that volleyball team that put in for the transfer portal, even though the transgender player, their transgender teammate, was a senior and could no longer play. Those players chose to leave San Jose State because of the gender issue with that. Now, in that case, they allowed the transgender player to be there because the Mountain West Conference and the NCAA rules allow transgender players to play in women's sports. And what's making it worse is that the president of the NCAA is saying, well, Congress or government needs to rule on the regulations for the NCAA, which is not true. He could address those things, but I believe that he is setting up for a political office run and maybe even like a presidential run. And so he's trying to toe the line and not be responsible for that. So there you go. You got college players such as like Leah Thomas that are competing and taking trophies away that should not be there. So this just goes on and on. Those issues, the San Jose State and the NCAA issues, were not discussed in Identity Crisis in the movie here. So let me kind of scan forward here, and we'll see if we can find some more interesting things. There are organizations that are starting to come together to support parental rights, which is good. But let's watch another clip here, and this is a young girl that is, or a young boy that is getting a puberty blocker inserted.
But on the inside, where nobody else can see,
Yeah.
are you a boy or are you a girl?
Maybe I'm a boy inside and a girl outside.
Really?
Yeah, is that true?
Only you know the answer to that. So if you wanted to grow up to be a man,
Yeah.
would you tell me?
Yeah.
Hey, if you wanted to grow up and be a man, you could.
I want to be someone that I think boys would have, but I want to be a girl.
Yeah.
Would you have me from a boy?
When we began to argue and debate the merits of...
That's interesting. Would you love me if I was a boy with the parent? And that's in a documentary. What are we doing? Do you see a kid there that is absolutely convinced that I need to do puberty blockers, that I need to be a girl? Do you see? I don't even see a kid that's really confused with that. I see a kid that is accommodating a parent, that kid knows what that mother wants, and that's crazy to see that happening. And so I'm gonna fast forward. Okay, so let me get back to that. Okay, so let's start.
Would you have me from a boy?
When we began to argue and debate the merits of gender-affirming care, we've already lost the debate. The reason for this is that there is absolutely no rationale for removing healthy breasts, genitalia, blocking the normal development of a healthy young person to result in osteoporosis, in infertility, in stunted growth, altered voice, abuse.
Another condition is called the DSM.
Okay, I was trying to find it, but they actually go to the point where they take this young boy that she was just asking, do you want to be a boy or a girl? And they actually inserted a puberty blocker in the arm, a release puberty blocker in the arm, which is just, it's crazy that they would do that. I find that ridiculous that they would do that. They think that's all right, to do that. It's not. It's just crazy. So this video is on X right now. It's underneath the Daily Wire. You can watch it. It's an hour and 49 minutes documentary that is talking about gender issues. And talking about what's happening with the children. It is graphic. It gets into discussing about if they're giving puberty blockers. And so in the case of this child that we just looked at, if they give that child a puberty blocker at that age, pre-puberty, they are not going to develop. And should they move forward with doing bottom surgery, what they will do is they won't have enough tissue, which they convert the penis into a what looks like a vagina, but they if they don't have enough material, they take it from stomach lining, and there's no sensitivity in there, so the child will not have any sexual experience at all. I shouldn't say they won't. It is happens frequently that's the case for kids that have had puberty blockers before puberty, and so it's just crazy. Now, they're in a situation as well that once that surgery's done, you don't reverse it. It's just like, let's say they determine that I did this for mom. I was trying to make mom happy, and it's just out of control. It's something that you don't reverse. It's done. You have to live your life that way, and you have to figure it out. Now, I'm not saying that somebody can't go through gender transition and have second thoughts and realize that they did wrong, or I'm not saying that you can't go through gender transition and be happy. I'm sure that there are people that learn how to do that. They learn how to accept themselves. They learn how to deal with the comorbidities, the underlying issues that are in their life, and they learn how to accept the fact of what they've done to their body, and that's just part of where they're going, and so they can get right with themselves on that. I think with children, this is a tragedy that we're doing this. I don't believe it is a healthy thing to do with children. And I think we need to do better as a society with that. So I encourage you to go watch the show Identity Crisis. You can find it on X at the Daily Wire. It's live for 72 hours for free to watch that. It's an hour and 49 minutes. It's an extremely good documentary to watch. And so I'm going to go ahead and sign off for now. And I hope that helps. And feel free to comment in the comment section. I'll try and respond on those, and maybe make another video if warranted on any comments that might want some insight on from my experiences. And so thank you for watching. Have a blessed day, and I'll see you soon.